Welcome to History in Flames. Empires rise and fall, the past comes alive, and fire and ash. Subscribe and relive the stories that shaped the world. June 10th, 1940. Benito Mussolini stands on the balcony of Palazzo Venezia in Rome. Below him, the square erupts with cheers. That day, Mussolini declares war on Britain and France, joining Hitler's Germany in a struggle for domination. But his armies are unprepared, his weapons outdated, his economy stretched to breaking point. Still, Mussolini cannot resist. He wants glory. He wants empire. He wants his place in the sun. Yet here lies the great question. What if Mussolini had chosen a different path? What if Italy, instead of plunging into war, had stayed neutral? Could this single decision have changed the fate of World War II? To understand the weight of this decision, we must first understand Italy in 1940. Mussolini ruled a fascist state, but unlike Hitler's Germany, Italy was not built for total war. TS factories lacked capacity. Its oil reserves were dangerously low. Its army still relied on World War I rifles. Italian tanks were thin-skinned and underpowered. The Air Force fielded outdated biplanes alongside a handful of modern designs. The Navy was impressive on paper, battleships and cruisers lined up in Mediterranean ports. But it too was hampered by fuel shortages and poor coordination. Mussolini knew this. His generals knew this. But Mussolini also knew something else. Hitler was winning. France had collapsed in 6 weeks. Britain stood alone. And Mussolini feared that if Italy remained on the sidelines, it would be left with nothing when Germany divided the spoils of Europe. So he made his choice: war, and with it, Italy's fate. But Mussolini's choice would cost Hitler dearly. Italy's invasions were disasters. In Greece, the Italian army faltered. The Greeks counterattacked and pushed into Albania. Hitler was furious. To rescue his ally, Germany invaded Greece and Yugoslavia in April 1941. The Balkans fell quickly, but not without consequence. The invasion delayed Operation Barbarossa, the attack on the Soviet Union, by critical weeks. Some historians argue that this delay may have cost Germany Moscow before winter's arrival. In North Africa, Italian defeats forced Hitler to send Rommel and the Afrika Korps. Germany, already stretched thin, now had to fight in deserts thousands of kilometers from its heartland. Every tank, every plane, every drop of fuel sent to Africa was a drain on the Eastern Front. And in 1943, when Italy collapsed and switched sides, the damage grew worse. Germany suddenly faced Allied armies in Sicily and southern Italy. Mussolini's empire had not expanded, it had crumbled, taking Germany down with it. But what if Mussolini had resisted temptation? What if, instead of gambling on glory, he had chosen neutrality as Italy had at the start of World War I? Imagine a Europe where Italy is neither ally nor enemy. Hitler still conquers France. Britain still fights on. But there is no Italian declaration of war. The Mediterranean remains quiet. Malta is never bombed. Egypt is never invaded. Rommel is never sent to North Africa. For Hitler, this changes everything. With Italy neutral, Germany never wastes time rescuing its ally in Greece. There is no Balkan diversion. Operation Barbarossa begins earlier, perhaps in May rather than late June 1941. That single month might change history. With summer longer, the Wehrmacht could reach Moscow before the snows. Soviet defenses, stretched and unprepared, might collapse before reinforcements from Siberia arrive. Stalin might even flee. The Soviet Union could fracture. And if Moscow falls, so too might the Red Army's ability to resist. This is the heart of the what if. Could a neutral Italy have given Hitler the time and strength he needed to win the East? Now consider the Mediterranean. With Italy neutral, Britain sails convoys through the sea without constant battle. The Royal Navy faces no great opponent there. North Africa is never a theater of war. Alamein never happens. Tobruk is never besieged. The thousands of men lost in desert battles remain available for other fronts. Britain can focus more on defending its skies and its empire. Germany, meanwhile, has no reason to divert troops or fuel to Africa. Hitler can concentrate his forces where he wants them most in Russia. But the consequences are not all in Germany's favor. Without Italy collapsing in 1943, there is no Allied invasion of Sicily, no landings at Salerno, no campaign up the Italian peninsula. The Allies lose their soft underbelly into Europe, must invade France alone, facing even stronger German defenses in the west. So what happens to D-Day? In our timeline, German divisions were tied down in Italy when the Allies landed in Normandy. But in this alternate world, with Italy neutral, those divisions are free to fight in France. The beaches of Normandy become even more dangerous. Could the Allies still succeed, or would they be thrown back into the sea? Meanwhile, in the east, if Germany captures Moscow, the war becomes darker still. With the United States, still committed to defeating Hitler, had been forced to fight a longer, bloodier war? Would the Soviets retreat beyond the Urals, or collapse entirely? And what of Mussolini himself? By staying neutral, he might have clung to power longer. Italy could trade with both sides, growing rich off war contracts while avoiding devastation. Rome might remain untouched, its cities unbombed, its people spared the suffering of occupation. Yet Mussolini's dream of empire would remain unfulfilled. Italy would stay a secondary power, a spectator rather than a conqueror. In reality, Mussolini's ambition doomed his country and weakened Hitler's empire. His armies collapsed, his people suffered, and his rule ended in betrayal and death. But in the realm of alternate history, a neutral Italy might have altered everything. Moscow might have fallen, D-Day might have failed. The war might have dragged on for years, costing millions more lives. Or perhaps, even with more time, Germany would still have faced defeat against the overwhelming industry of the United States and the resilience of the Soviet Union. History tells us what did happen. But alternate history lets us ask, what might have been? What if Italy had stayed neutral in World War II? Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more. Share your thoughts below.